continue our National Signing Day coverage. We got Tony Siracusa on the line from Last Word on College Football to talk up UCLA. The Bruins rank, according to 247 Sports, at number 7 in the Pac-12, number 43 in the nation. Tony, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Mark, how are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you as well, definitely. Not much has changed in regards to rankings and the dotted line and the names on said lines. But in regards to the finish line, and I'll stop saying that word, your thoughts about UCLA's class and what happened here in the last few days.
You know, I mean, if you look at it, it is you and I spoke probably a little bit over a week ago, and they signed 15 back in December. There were 3 hard commits that they were going to sign that we talked about at the time. They signed them today, and that's it. That's the class. When you and I spoke last time, I said there were 3, maybe 4 more players outside of that they had a shot at, and they got none of them. They whiffed on all of them today. And so UCLA's entire class is 18 players. The players they got today they're perfectly capable players. They got Mike Martinez, who is a big tight end out of Mater Dei, which is a nice hit because Mater Dei is, for those who don't know the Southern California locality of it, is a traditional pipeline straight to USC. So for UCLA to get a 3-star tight end out of Mater Dei is a nice hit. He's strong hands, good blocker. UCLA's got a lot of depth at tight end going into spring camp. He won't be there in the spring. It's not going to be an early enrollee, but going into the 2019 season, UCLA's got a lot of depth at tight end, so they have time to develop him. He's a huge kid. He's 6'6", 246 already, 17 years old. He's still growing. There's a world where you can actually see him becoming an offensive lineman at some point if he keeps growing at the pace he's going. They got Noah Keeter, 6'5", 224-pound defensive end from Gainesville, Florida. That's fine. And they got Charles Njoku, who we talked about last week, from Wayne Hills, New Jersey, whose older brother David is a tight end for Cleveland, went to the University of Miami. This kid's got a chance to play early on. A very gifted wide receiver, 6'5", 200 pounds. UCLA's got a crowded wide receiver group, but this kid's got speed. He's got size. He's got a chance to play early on if he looks anything on the field like he looks in tape. He jumped 25 spots in the 24/7 Sports composite rankings from mid-November to early January, based on how he finished the season, based on how he looked at camps. He had a 1,000-yard receiving season, so very good player. Thing is, UCLA knew they were going to sign those players today. They were hard commits. They weren't even on the fence. They didn't get anybody else. So they had the 15 early signees. They got the 3 today. They had a shot at 3 to 4 more. Didn't get any of the 3 to 4 more. There's one kid still hanging out. UCLA's on the fringe with it. Kid named Puka Nacua. And he is a very gifted wide receiver, a 4-star wide receiver from Orem, Utah. Interesting story in that he is a USC commit. As of this moment, he is still a USC commit. However, with all of the tumult that went on with the assistant coaching changes at USC, he never decommitted from USC, but he decided to take some last-minute trips. And in the last 2 weeks of January, he squeezed in trips to Oregon, Washington, and UCLA. If he was still a strong USC commit, he would have signed today. Instead, he canceled his ceremony. His family said he has been traveling a lot. He needed time to gather himself, as it were. The intel is that he's actually a pretty strong Washington lean right now. However, UCLA is in the game, whereas 2 weeks ago they weren't. He came out of his UCLA visit saying he really, really liked the meetings with Chip Kelly and with wide receiver coach Jimmy Doherty. So UCLA is in the game for him. Very talented kid. they're there. Are they going to get them? Again, they're on the outside, but they're in the race where they weren't before. It's UCLA and Washington at this point. So there's a lot of angst in the fan base. You read the fan boards today. I've been answering a lot of questions while we were running our 15, 20, 22 stories, whatever it was at Last Word on College Football, going around the country, running our stories about signing day. And I was spending a lot of time on UCLA fan boards answering questions. And you can see the angst. Not just about that it was only 18 signees, because UCLA had a very young team, but in the fact that there's one four-star signee in the group, Sean Ryan, an offensive lineman from San Juan Capistrano, who signed in December. The angst in the UCLA fan base is about the quality of the class, not so much the numbers.
Yeah, so unless something's drastically changed in the last few years of high school football in Southern California, I would think that Chip Kelly could walk out outside of campus and walk a few blocks and run into a few four stars just outside of campus.
You know what? There's a real challenge right now, and it's not just a UCLA problem, it's a USC problem. You see a lot of local kids from these elite Southern California schools and California schools in general going elsewhere. I mean, Tennessee today got a commit from a kid from Concord de La Salle in Northern California. This brilliant four-star player is going to Tennessee. If you're UCLA, if you're USC, and you watch this linebacker who is, a 45-minute plane flight from you, go to Tennessee, you got to ask yourself, how does that happen in a million years when you used to have a lockdown on that school? It's happening more and more. It's a problem for the California schools, for UCLA and USC in particular.
Got Tony Siracusa on the line from Last Word on College Football to discuss UCLA's class, which ranks number 43 in the nation, number 7 in the Pac-12. And as Tony outlined off the top of our conversation, no real fines today, basically just wrapped up the hard commits that had already committed to UCLA and didn't let those guys at least get away. So when you were answering these questions and the concerns, to be mild about it, today, were you just answering the questions but still validating the concerns, or were the concerns a bit stretched?
Some of both. I think one of the concerns is, where does UCLA go from here if this class isn't that good? And I think part of it is you need time for the class to develop. And I think that's true of any program. UCLA is coming off a 3-9 season with a young team. It would be different if it was coming off a 3-9 season where they lost half of the roster and kids were looking at immediate playing time. That's not the case at most of the positions for UCLA. They're recruiting for depth. They're recruiting for development. Most of these kids that they're recruiting are not looking at immediate playing time, with a possible exception of a Sean Ryan on the offensive line, or maybe a linebacker need. So it's a little bit of a different kind of recruiting philosophy. I think part of what happens too is, like you and I have talked about, UCLA has now had 30 players leave the program since Chip Kelly came about. Another one left today, a reserve linebacker who, honestly, the kid was suspended for part of last year, was benched for part of last year. Not that big a deal in terms of productivity leaving the program. But if someone's just going to look at the numbers, they're going to wave a flag that says, oh my gosh, 30 players have left the program. It's chaos in Westwood. Not the case. A lot of grad transfers have left. People who were buried on the depth chart, a running back who was 4th on the depth chart, at best, and had a chance to go be a grad transfer somewhere else. It's those kinds of conversations that are happening when you only sign 18 players, and then you look at 30 players have left, and you're seeing local talent go somewhere else. There's a lot of people trying to connect dots that don't necessarily connect, but they're trying to make a picture out of it that isn't really necessarily there. But the logical question is, what does Chip Kelly do? There is a program that is coming up in a couple of days at UCLA, which I think everyone's got to kind of keep an eye on. There's no way this came out of Chip Kelly. This had to have come from the marketing department at UCLA. You know, UCLA's got the 8 clap that they do as part of one of their cheers, one of their chants. They are trying to be more transparent now about the scholarships that they offer. Chip Kelly, like we've talked about, is not Jim Mora. He's not going to throw 80 scholarship offers out against the wall and see who takes them. He's very strategic about what he does. He needs to know you're going to get into UCLA before he even offers you. However, it seems as though they're trying to answer some of these concerns. So on the 8th of every month, they're going to be out there opening up about who they're offering scholarships to. The high school athletes locally across the country, it is going to be open season on, hey, this guy, we're offering this guy a scholarship. It's going to be on UCLA social media pages who they've offered scholarships to. And it's going to be on the 8th, so it ties into the 8 clap thing so that you see it every month. It's a strange, almost gimmicky kind of thing. Like I said, knowing Chip Kelly the way we do, there is no way in a million years I believe that this was his concept. This had to have come from somewhere deep inside the athletic department, looking at people saying there's a whole lot of upset out there in the season ticket base, in the fan base, about coming off at 3-9 and then signing only 18 players. Got to do something. So in about 3 days, there's going to be all kinds of news about whoever Chip Kelly is starting to offer scholarships to for the 2020 season.
We get our UCLA take from Tony Siracusa here from Last Word on College Football. You heard that Tony had mentioned that they had posted about 20 stories on National Signing Day to the site. So please, again, it's Last Word on College Football for a look at National Signing Day from across the nation. Tony, Mike Laval, Kevin McGuffey, maybe some of those guys can jump on the line. I have the link out there for anybody who wants to jump on the line. I think it was 23 total last year. I don't think we'll make it, and that will be just fine with me, actually, if we don't make the 23 by the end of the night. But, Tony, I appreciate you stopping by, giving us the lowdown. And, of course, next up, we will start to preview spring ball and maybe come up with a few nostalgic more subjects to maybe go on the brighter side of the way things look, at least right now, coming off 3 wins and a signing class in the 40s.
Always glad to do it, Mark.
Thanks, Tony. Appreciate it.